Well, if you think about trade finance, it's been one of these areas of commercial banking that has existed for hundreds of years and actually operate in a very archaic way. Lots of paper. It's a $20 trillion industry. And most of the time when there's that big gap that you talked about, it affects small to medium businesses who are the drivers of economies. There are people who need financing to export goods, to receive goods, and they're hugely challenged because of the bureaucracy. And so what this bank was designed to do is to fundamentally use technology to reimagine everything you could think of. So it was a bank that was built from the ground up to effectively automate and digitize, but more importantly, reimagine a business model for a trade finance bank. So using data and algorithms to drive next actions, eliminate paper and waste, and speed through getting finance to the people who need it when they need it in the most efficient manner. It was a partnership between Anglo-Gulf Trade Bank and Mubadala, the sovereign wealth fund, to really do two things. First, to create a new kind of trade finance model, but more importantly, also stimulate trade in the region, which is critical.
So tell me about the operating and business model. How is it specifically different to a traditional trade financier?
Well, the first big difference is basically most of trade finance today relies on paper. Lots of paper moving from one place to the other, a supplier having to generate a bill of goods and that moving across different entities. With AGTB, one of the things we're doing is actually creating a single view of truth of all of the data at the same time. So you're actually making decisions in real time, not following pieces of paper and needing to kind of validate them. The second is actually using that data to make business decisions around actual financing, which today is a very manual process done by lots of people poring over spreadsheets, as opposed to actually being able to do it in real time.
Nigel, Matt also has a question for you.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, Nigel. Thanks very much. We're, of course, living in this new reality now in the world where we have negative interest rates, record low borrowing costs. How does that help or hinder what you're trying to do?
I think if you think about the economy today, almost every business is looking to drive cost out of the business or improve growth. And what we're trying to do is create access to a marketplace that otherwise remains unfulfilled. So in the context of the gap that Dan was talking about earlier, that is essentially lost opportunity on trade. So lost growth to companies, lost growth to economies and markets, and effectively consumers not getting things they actually want because they're held up in the process of not being able to be produced and kind of delivered to a particular point. And what we're trying to do generally as a business is identify visionary clients like the folks at Anglo-Gulf Trade Bank who are looking to fundamentally use technology to reimagine a business model and start to disrupt the way things are. If you only go back a few years and somebody told you that you could be, in a stranger's house that you never met, living there, in their house, and they could be living in your house and have access to everything in your house, you'd think it was crazy. But then you start to see a business model like that appear and take significant hold in the consumer sense. But when you look at a lot of corporate functions, like commercial banking as an example, these industries have significantly lagged the innovation that we're seeing in some consumer tech businesses, primarily the focus of Silicon Valley. And a lot of our focus is how do we fundamentally reimagine businesses, whether it's in banking or travel and hospitality, in the context of a world that's increasingly driven by technology.